Welcome to episode 28 of the Arctic Crafts podcast. My name is Bente and I'm coming to you from Vesterålen, northern Norway, where I live with my husband and 3 cats. You can find me on Instagram as Arctic Crafts, on Facebook and Etsy as Arctic Crafts by Bente, and on Ravelry as Arctic Crafts 65. I also have a Ravelry group for this podcast. You just go on the groups tab in Ravelry and search for Arctic Crafts and I'll pop up. I have to apologize for the lighting today. I normally podcast or record the podcast in the mornings, but today hubby had to teach a lesson online, so we couldn't do that at the same time. I could possibly have waited until this evening, but I wanted to get the podcast recorded, edited and uploaded before this afternoon. Hopefully I can fix a bit of the lighting issues when I edit the video. First things first, I have some admin to talk about. I have 2 knit-alongs running. One is the Arctic Crafts knit-along. That's a year-long knit-along where you can enter anything you have knit with my yarn. It has to be at least 25% Arctic Crafts yarn. So for example, if you knit a sweater and you use my yarn as the contrast color, that's okay. I did the drawing for the first quarter, and there wasn't a lot of entries, but I drew a winner, and the winner is Selma from Little Big Knits. And unfortunately, I can't ship anything to Canada at the moment, so she'll just have to wait a bit for her prize, but something new happens every day when it comes to mail, so hopefully it won't take too long before I can start shipping to Canada again. The other knit-along is the 80s Kids Make-Along that I'm doing with Chevyrell from Chevyrell Stuff and Beth from Shadows and Purls. I'll link both those podcasts down below. And Make-Along, it's a make-along, so you can do anything, any craft. And as long as you can convince me that it has something to do with the 80s, you're in. And I posted the FO thread yesterday, and the make-along goes from April 1st until July 1st. And the hashtag for the make-along is hashtag 80s Kids Mal, one word. And that's the admin. I don't think there was anything else. As you can see, I'm not wearing knitwear today. I'm wearing my I Can't Adult Today t-shirt because I don't feel like adulting at all these days, because we're still cooped up in the house. It's beautiful weather outside though, and I did a little bit of recording outside the other day, and you have already seen that because I put that up at the start of the podcast. Or rather, I'm going to put it at the start when I edit. And as you can see, I put up some daffodils in the background. We're getting closer to Easter, and there's not going to be any traveling for Easter this year because we are told to stay at home and avoid unnecessary travel. And that means that my youngest son can't come here for Easter because he lives in a different place and he has to go for 5 hours on the bus to get here, and they don't recommend you travel with bus or ferry or train or anything like that. So we'll have to make up for that in the summer holidays. Hopefully everything is back to normal in the summer. I at least hope so, because I am planning on participating in a local festival, so I'm planning to vend some yarn, and that's in July, so let's just hope everything is back to normal by then. And if you feel like supporting me, you can either go to my Etsy shop and buy some yarn. Canada is the only country I can't ship to at the moment. And if you're from Canada and you like something in my shop, if you are prepared to wait until the embargo lifts, that's fine. I also have a Ko-fi page where you can go in and buy me a cup of coffee if you feel like it. But this is a knitting podcast, so maybe we should talk a bit about knitting. I was planning to wear my latest finished object for the podcast today, but it's too warm. So this is my Ranunculus. You haven't seen this as a work in progress because I started and finished it in 3 days. But that's the Ranunculus for you. This is knit in yarn I bought in Brighton when we went there for winter break. It's Life in the Long Grass. It's their Hinterland base. And the colorway is Riverrock. And the difference between this Ranunculus and the two I've knit before is that this one has bracelet length sleeves, so the sleeves are a bit longer, and it's not cropped. So, and I love the Ranunculus because it's knit with fingering weight yarn on bigger needles, so it's really airy and it doesn't get so warm. For me, it's me in my personal summers again, but it was too warm today. Otherwise, I would have worn this on the podcast. So that's one of my FOs. And my Birds of a Feather got finished. And this is also knit in Life in the Long Grass, bought in Brighton. And I have trouble wearing this because it's so long. And this is, it's not only Life in the Long Grass. It's, that's Life in the Long Grass. The colorway, the two colorways are Noon and Lughnasa. I'm not sure which is which at the moment. I can't remember. And this is Nora George Grateful. I picked this color because it was almost the same as that color. So in fact this shawl looks like a 2-color shawl, even though I've used 3 different yarns. And this is really neutral, so when I figure out how to wear it, it's going to get a lot to wear. And I have also finally finished something I've had on the needles for far too long. And it's this pair of socks. It's knit with my yarn in the colorway Silver Lining. And these socks are for my oldest son. And I suddenly remembered that I really should have these as a sample because this colorway, it's nice to be able to show people what it looks like knit up. But then I suddenly remembered I can just knit a cylinder with the leftover yarn. It doesn't have to be a sock for you to see what it looks like knit up. So these are going in the mail to my oldest son. And those are my FOs for this time. I'm planning on a new cast on, but I'll show you that after I've shown you my works in progress. And my works in progress are, I finally picked up my East Coast Girl again by Vera Valimaki, and this has been on the needles for almost a year. I bought this yarn in York last Easter. It's Beehive Yarns, her Audrey fingering base, and the colorway is Rose Salve. And I finally picked it up again, and when I just picked it up again, I worked really. I only have a few more rows of garter at the bottom of it, and I've already started the first sleeve. This is a cardigan that I was planning to have finished last summer because this is the perfect summer cardigan. It's fingering weight yarn. The colorway is really spring summer, And because of the lace at the top, it's not too warm. So this is going to be perfect over dresses and stuff in the summer. So I'm going to finish this now. I'm not planning on, I say I'm not planning on casting on another sweater, but I might. Because there's one, I have some dream knitting. Andrea Mowry has this gorgeous textured sweater called Daydreamer, and it's sport weight. And I'm going to show you a work in progress now. That's knit in my sport weight, my new base, Gold Sport. And this yarn is so crazy soft. So I want a sweater in this yarn. And I'm knitting the Daydreamer by Andrea Mowry in this yarn, because it's so soft. This is my Vincent colorway. I decided I needed a sample in it, and I dyed up 3 skeins of Gold Sport, Vincent on Gold Sport, and I took one of the skeins to knit a sample pair of socks. The fun little teacup Progress Keeper was a gift from my bestie Sue in Canada. And if you're wondering why these Progress Keepers are here, or stitch markers rather, it's because I don't measure my socks. I count rows. So I put one of these every 10 rows. When I knit a fingering weight pair of socks, it's really easy to remember because it's 64 stitches and the foot is 64 rows before I start with the toe. And this is sport weight, so I started with the toe after, let's see, 54. It's 10 rows less because this is sport weight and the row gauge is different. And I've started the second sock, and I'm knitting these on my Knit Pro Sings DPNs, and it's 2.5 millimeters. For fingering weights I use 2.25. So that's one work in progress. And then I have a third work in progress, and it's the 12 i 20 Garnbutikken Fortuna, 12 in 20. I've spoke about this before. They just pick a sock pattern every month, and you have a month to knit that pair of socks, and the month after that they pick another pattern. And this month they have picked a colorwork pattern by Ninja Chickens. It's called Sirius, not as in being serious, but like the star Sirius. And I'm pleased with the colors I chose. All of this is stash yarn. It's commercial Norwegian sock yarn in solids. And I'm pleased with this. I have about, it's symmetrical. So after I knit another one of these at this end, I'll start with the heel, and the foot has the same pattern, and then you knit the toe. And I have all of April to knit these, so I know I'm going to finish them. It's colorwork socks on DPNs are a pain, but I was looking for, I have these Addy Crazy Trios. I think they're called Flexi Flips in the States, and they're perfect for colorwork socks. The problem is I've mislaid them somewhere, so I have to knit these on DPNs. So thankfully I know I have to finish them in April, so they will be finished. The needles I'm using, I've got to tell you, is my Knit Pro Carbons. I bought a few of these. I'm not too fond of them, but I only have one set of Knit Pro Sings in 2.5, and they're already in use because I'm knitting these, even though it's fingering weight yarn, I'm knitting them on 2.5 millimeters because colorwork tend to make the socks tighter, and I want to be able to get them on. And I've ordered another pair of another set of Knit Pro Sings in 2.5 and one set in 3 millimeter. I prefer Knit Pro Sings, both circular and DPNs. I've tried lots of needles. I bought some Chiagu red lace in Brighton for 9-inch socks, and I really love those, but they're really pricey, so I can't afford at the moment at least to get a set of interchangeables, but that is really something I might ask hubby for some for my birthday, but that's not until September, unfortunately. But that was my works in progress. Checking my show notes. This is going to be a short episode, I think, because I've done a lot of live stuff already. I haven't got a lot of more live stuff to tell you. So I'm going to talk about my new cast on. I'm going to cast this on today, probably. I have... this is a book I've had in my knitting library for a couple of years. Melanie Berg is one of my favorite shawl designers because she has a lot of really fun shawls, both in one color and in several colors. And one of the shawls I really love is this one. It's, as you can see, it's called Solaris. And I think it's so beautiful. And you can get this pattern on Ravelry as well. Unfortunately, there's not a download code in this book, so I have to use the book when I knit it. I could take copies so I can take notes and stuff. The thing about this book is that it's both in German and English. So this is what it looks like. And what I'm knitting this in is this is how I sometimes come up with new colorways, because I'm going for something, I need something for something I want to knit for myself, and if I'm really pleased with it, it gets into my shop and becomes a repeatable. And this is the grey I've dyed up to knit the shawl with. And this, if you can imagine rock garden without the flowers, this is it. And I'm calling this slate, because that's what it looks like to me. The minis I'm using, because that pattern is a main color, 2 skeins of a main color, and a mini skein set. And I have dyed up some mini skein sets in my Arctic Sunset gradient. So I'm pairing these for the Solaris shawl. I think it's going to be beautiful. So I'm going to cast that on today. And there goes my East Coast girl again, I guess. So that was my new cast on. And I have one acquisition I've been telling you about before. My subscription with Ewe Felty Thing. Every month I get a new skein of yarn and a little extra. And it varies what dyer you get. And I was having a bad day when this arrived. This really helped. This is very, very pink. It's the colorway is called Shades of Pink. And it's all wool that's ends wool. And the extra this time was a pair of pink sparkly buttons. So I almost have to knit something with this that needs buttons. I might look for a cowl or something that needs buttons, because I really think these go together. I really need to use this together. But I have a lot of pink in my stash, so I might use the buttons for something else. And that's it. Nothing much to do for the rest of the day other than knit, because we're confined to the house. We went to the shops yesterday, and we're not planning on going to the shops again until Monday. And I have been dyeing a bit this week, but both my inspiration and my mojo kind of is missing. And there's not much going out of the shop either these days. So there's a limit to how much inventory I can fit into my storage space. I might dye some yarn next week anyway, but what I have been dyeing this week is Silver Lining, the one I was showing you. I've been dyeing Silver Lining on Polldale, that's going into the shop. And I've knit Arctic Sunset on miniskein sets. And I've dyed up some mixed tape sock sets, 50 grams plus 20 grams. Those are not completely dry, so I can't show them to you, but I'll show them next time when I'll because I have an update on Easter Sunday, and I'll show you all the yarn. My next podcast, I'll show you everything that's going into the shop. So now I'm going to head back to the couch and my knitting and make myself a cup of coffee. And I hope everyone is staying healthy and staying safe. And I'll see you in a week. Bye.